Hello. Hey there. I'm getting my things set up here. Give me 1 minute. Based on what you can hear, how is my voice versus the music? And hello, Com, Ryan, Scud. Hello, Lean. Hi to you. I'm getting a few windows opened up. All right, excellent. So, let me see. How about that? Is that okay? Let me get my muscle books out. I just realized I left one of those in my job. Nope, never mind. There it is. Okay. How about that? Better? I gotta get myself a mic set up. I'm not doing bad. How are you guys? Okay. So, I'm gonna be doing a bit of sketch work today. As you guys are all no doubt aware, I am working on a little comic book. Bit of a different process than animation, but similar in a lot of ways. But I am about to be on my last page of it, which is this one. So let me go ahead and get started. All right. Oh, hello. Okay. So this last page is gonna look a little funky because I was working on Jennifer's head. Because something about like this drawing doesn't look right to me. I think it's her head structure. Definitely down here now that I'm looking at it. So I'm gonna need to pull out my artist's guides and and fix it. But that's not what we're doing right now. I can go back and fix that, no problem. But I'll take care of that later. But we're getting into the sort of last action bit. So as you can probably see, I have one sketch of my own right here, which is very rough, but the pieces are there. You should be able to see what she's doing. That is Jennifer, by the way. And this right here is the comics of surprise character. If you don't want to know who she is, um, if you don't want to know who she is, then I recommend you tune out for a sec. Or probably don't even watch this video, but I'm gonna say who she is. It's actually it's my take on Betty Ross. I'm doing Red She-Hulk finally. Ryan, it gets done when it gets done, man. Like I'm moving as fast as I can. I'd say maybe like a month or two. It's a lot of work, and I'm married, and I have bills to pay. I got a job. Um, I'm moving, so cut me a little bit of slack, all right? I'm probably gonna stop talking and get to drawing. I I might talk a little bit. If the stability begins to drop, then I will probably stop talking. All right. So as you can see, I'm actually drawing in another pose here. But this is for a surprise character. So I'm not really sure if everybody wants to see who it is exactly. But if you're so inclined, you don't want any spoilers. I'm actually tell you what. If you don't want any comics spoiled or any like surprise characters spoiled for you, I would recommend you probably actually leave for this stream. It's kind of impossible for me to draw this character and not talk about her. That said, this is the creative process. If you would like to know about, you know, all of this, you're more than welcome to stay. I just want you to be aware of what you're signing up for. I don't want to deprive you of the experience. You know what I mean? Alright, now you probably can see how I constructed this character. I started off with the cranium, which the angle of the cranium's a little bit off now that I look at it. It's more like that. So, excuse me. I've been running around all morning. I had to go to the doctor's really quick for something. No emergencies, so don't sweat it. But then I had to knock out a whole bunch of errands. So I would have gotten started a little bit earlier, but I decided to use the day, knock some stuff out. But I constructed this character by getting reference, first and foremost. Reference is amazing. Let me get her butt together. And then after I found the reference I wanted to use, I started off with the cranium, and I kind of found the overall shape of the character's silhouette. It's sort of like a downward left-facing pentagon. So I traced that around the edge and then sort of replicated that over here, and then began to construct her body utilizing both positive and negative space. Negative space is the area between the body parts, which is actually as important as the positive space. Too many people ignore the negative when they're trying to create their characters, and you ignore the negative, you will misjudge the space between the parts of the body. Now, I'm only human. I'm going to make these mistakes too. So I'm going to go through a few rounds of sort of push and pull before I'm ready to start developing her body. So I'm going to actually flip it. Alright. And I'm going to take another look at what I drew versus what the reference was. I don't need to be exact with the reference, I just need to be close enough. So you can actually already kind of see what the pose is doing over this way. Go ahead and lightly blot out the perimeter. Yeah, we kind of got a little something going here, right? Makes sense, but we can certainly push it. So I'm gonna push it by studying the reference a little more. So where's the force and where is the line of action? Right, so the line of action is like this. That's where the motion of this whole thing is. Right? The dynamic posture begins right here. Right? So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna try to see if my drawing sticks to that. Now, unfortunately, I'm not right-handed, so drawing that angle there would have been kind of hard. Right, so studying it one more time. It sort of begins at her ear, right? Comes over her sternum, her abs, okay, and then kind of rounds out, kind of close to where her kneecap is. All right, so let's give that a shot and see if we can't replicate that a little more accurately. All right. Hey, Ron, how are you? Long time no talk. Now, before I go too far with that, I need to check one thing. I'm going to kind of cheat a little bit. I want to see where the edge of her abs meets up with the limb. Alright. So it looks like we got a little bit of meet-up action going on at the wrist. Alright. Now, this is where things get kind of fun with drawing. This is where it becomes more like a sculpting exercise. Alright, so I'm going to take one more look at reference. And I'm looking at the relationship between the shoulder blades. We got kind of a, not quite a 45, but something similar. I'd say like 35 or so, right? Looks like I didn't do that too well here. I actually kind of screwed that up, but it's all right. That's why we're drawing, right? So let's take a look at what we have here that works, right? I'm gonna say it's her jawline. And we're going to use that as our kind of base, right? Bring that back down, yada, 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 yada. Right? I'm going to kind of develop that neck one more time. All right, cool. Close enough. Okay, so let's take another look at that shoulder, right? Actually, this isn't quite the shoulder. This sort of shape here. That's where the pecs and shoulder meet. So let's go ahead and get that shape in there, right? All right, so we're gonna reconstruct this shoulder angle over here, because if we look at kind of how it got drawn, I didn't do a very good job of that on first pass, right? Oh, not a terrible job, it's just it looks like her left arm there isn't as high as it should be. Okay, so let's go ahead and rework it. And just to be fun, just to kind of show the difference between the layers, let's go ahead and change the hue and saturation here. I'm gonna make that first layer blue. Alright, so now you can see the corrections that we're making. Alright. Okay, so let's see, let's keep going. Well, I'll have more thoughts as I go. Oh, shoot, wrong layer. Alright, let me go ahead and save before I lose anything. Привет, Nikolai, как дела сегодня? And, hello, Ghost, how you doing? Ghost! Alright. Yeah, you can see the major difference here. Alright. Let's go ahead and rework that arm. Right. And up here is where we got the extensor muscles. Kind of comes down like this. Like a box cutter. Alright. You can see how off my original sketch was. already I'm seeing a difference, right? So I'm gonna fix that a little bit. Now let's go ahead and get that box in there. It's gonna kind of represent her fist. Okay, you can see a pretty clear difference. Just you know, the first step to drawing is just to get something down there. We can correct it as we go. Okay. So now we've got a more stable baseline for the head and the arm. All right. I'm just gonna develop the cranium a little more. You'll notice I'm not trying to do like, like rounded contours all the time. I'm actually kind of developing the contour by doing a bunch of straight lines, right? And then I could round them out as I go. Okay. That's only for the sketch phase. When you start getting into the more detail-oriented stuff, you're going to need to start moving into the contours. All right. So now, as we look at it, the relationship between the left shoulder and right shoulder looks a lot closer to the reference. Let me go ahead and erase these a little bit so you can see it. All right. That's kind of what drawing is supposed to be. You're supposed to study other people's work or study, photography. And you're just looking at the relationship between the body parts and seeing where the force is generated. Okay. And a lot of times when you do that first pass, you're trying to get something down, right? You're not trying to be perfect. You're just trying to get something on paper, right? Once we do that, we can make corrections to improve the relationships and improve the sense of force and what the pose is trying to communicate. Let me grab my 5-hour energy really quick. If you guys got any questions about all this, don't hesitate to ask. But something that maybe you might have noticed if you draw, I'm sure you've attempted to trace, and you probably trace what you trace your image, and you're like, what the hell? Like, this looks nothing like it. There's something missing. Ghost, yes, she is skinny, but we're not trying to get body parts like, exactly as they're trying to look in terms of thickness. I'm just trying to capture the pose right now and get the relationship between the body parts. I can beef her up later. That's one of the most important things about drawing. A lot of artists I see on the internet will they'll be so focused on the musculature that they forget the musculature is attached to something, and what it's attached to is a skeleton, and sinew that is it's moving in a certain way. Like the body, when it moves, no matter what it's doing, it's communicating something. That's what posture is all about. So if you have all this muscle and you don't have any posture, like there was no point. There was no point in drawing the goddamn muscles in the first place. Who cares? Like she has muscles. What are those muscles doing? Who's controlling them? What is this person like communicating with how they pose themselves? You know what I mean? Shit. I gotta stop drinking these goddamn things. Alright. Alright. Dumpster Daddy, first off, welcome. Nice to see you, as always. Ghost, good question. Let me go ahead and share that this stream is even happening in my Discord. All right, here we go. It's okay if there's only 8 people. I mean, if there's only one person, that's cool with me. All right, let me get back to drawing. Dumpster Daddy, let me answer your question. So, first off, let me get myself on a track that I can focus on. So next we're going to do the pec and abdominal line of action. Now, once again, let me just see where it meets up. All right, here, that was the whole point of that. So it looks like this goes a little too far, so I'm going to scrunch it a bit. All right, better. All right, so earlier I was testing the relationship between the tip of the abdomen, or the rib cage, and the wrist. Looks like they line up. So here's what I'm gonna do, just to make sure I'm not screwed up. Sorry. That's close enough. I was looking at the relationship between the tip of the jaw and whatever the hell was directly beneath it, which was the intersection of the bicep and the extensor and contractor muscles. I'm not exactly there in my drawing, but it's pretty damn close. So we don't need to go too much further with that. Now I'm a little more comfortable. There we go. Actually, it should be right about there. Okay, let's go ahead, drag that over. There we go. Okay, so that should come out. That. All right, cool. All right, so once again, we're going to be looking at the relationship between the wrist and the rib cage. You can probably ascertain I was not even close. So let's go ahead and... God, look how off I was. You see what I'm talking about? Boom. Boom. There's a major gap here, which is not what I'm supposed to, that's not how it's supposed to look. You'll notice there's a lot more dynamism here versus mine. Mine kind of loses something. And you'll notice this. Pay quick attention. This is the importance of negative space, right? The guides that I drew, okay, and Dumpster Daddy, I'll answer your question about character design in a minute. I haven't forgotten, but I just got a quick pointer. All right, drawing is a lot like sculpting. All right, you get kind of like a base down that you can modify. All right, and in this case we have reference to copy from. All right, I'm not trying to do my best to replicate what I see. Okay, I'll be using straight lines a lot of the time to determine the relationship between body parts. All right. You'll notice sometimes when artists stick their pencil in front of their faces and they have that sort of squint in their eyes and they're like got their tongue out and they're like turning their pencil, right? That's all this is. Like imagine that these guys right here are like pencils, right? That's what a lot of the artists are actually doing. They're determining the difference, or they're determining relationships between body parts to help get proportions correct. So I hope that's making a little bit of sense. But back to what I was saying. When I actually made these guides, right? You'll notice that a shape popped up. Right here. This little triangle I created. Alright? I didn't mean to create that triangle, but there it is. So let me go ahead and pull that back. All right. So we're going to look at kind of approximately where the... I wish I had grids, but if I get a grid going, it's going to crash my software. But I'm going to go ahead and cheat a little bit. All right. What I just drew was the intersection of the torso and that guideline for the wrist, which means that's where the torso should come out, right? So instead of drawing from the neck down here, what I could try instead is to draw that triangle that I created on accident, right? So let's do that. Instead of drawing a body, it's easier to draw shapes. There we go. Right? See? So, let's go ahead and finish that arc. All right. There. So now, getting a little more dynamism out of our pose. All right. I'm gonna go ahead and kind of lightly erase these guys. They're still useful, but I don't need them all the time. I don't want to get rid of them either. All right. There we go. So let's keep this process going. All right. So let me answer that question that what was it? It was Dumpster Daddy had about character design. I don't know. What do you want to know about it? It's a very broad question. Is there anything in particular that you'd like to know? And I'm gonna be completely real. Character design is not exactly my strong suit. I feel like with all of these She-Hulk designs, I got a little lucky. I had a good base to work from. Designing characters from scratch is a little more difficult. Okay. Ghost. I think everyone's being a little too hard on the show, if I'm being honest. Excuse me, if I'm being honest. It wasn't a terrible show. It certainly could have been better, but I digress. Okay. One second. But yeah, Dumpster Daddy. Is there anything in particular that you would like to know about character design? Dylan. Yeah, hey, I'm glad you dig the cartoons, man. I'm glad you found your way to my channel, and I hope you stick around to watch some more. Or read some more in this case. We have quite a bit of stuff coming. All right, so hang on, I'm gonna do this real quick. Declan, oh, hello. Hey, what's going on, man? All right, here, I'm gonna, before I get too sucked into this angle, I'm gonna go ahead and go this way, and flip it. All right, so let's see. So, a trap that I often fall into when I'm drawing is I'm trying too hard to move quickly. And when you draw quickly, that's when you screw up. That's when you start making small little errors that add up. I remember this quote that I learned in my illustration class when I was still in school. And it stuck with me. It was, speed is an illusion. All the artists who you see drawing, you know, they're all extremely talented, obviously. I don't want to pat my own back there, but I'm talking about like the guys who, you know, do like live streams and will draw for you like in, you know, panels at, you know, shows and stuff. They're not drawing quickly. They're drawing at a speed they're comfortable with. And what exactly is comfortable about it? It's how much time they need to observe. you need to be able to observe what it is you're doing and accurately place contours. So I may have gone too far. So if an artist is drawing a little bit slow, they're not drawing slow. They're drawing at a comfortable pace so they don't screw up. All right? There we go. So there's... Okay, you know what? I didn't actually tell you guys who this character is, did I? So let me show you. So I actually finally gave in to peer pressure, and I drew out Betty Ross, aka Red She-Hulk. She doesn't appear very much. She's piloting the jet in her human form, and when Jen takes out a bunch of these missiles and stuff, Betty kind of pops out of her jet and kind of reveals her like Red She-Hulk form, and then boom, we got a bigger fight on our hands. So, since I'm only one dude, I can't exactly draw the entire thing because I've already drawn 22 pages before that. I'm getting kind of, I'm not tired, but it's just I gotta keep this thing going, I gotta move on to other projects. So, if I want to draw them fighting later, I totally can. But the story that I made for Jennifer in this case already is kind of wrapped up by this point. I don't need to go much further with her. So, I'll be teasing future stuff about them in this comic. Okay, let's keep going. So yeah, speed is an illusion. All that. Okay. So let's see. Rib cage. Okay. Hip area. Okay. Okay, now here's where we get a maybe cool attack. So this is where her butt's gonna come out. It's roughly equating right here. So let's kind of... But yeah, you can see how much more dynamism we're getting versus our original sketch down there. So this is where the foreshortening gets kind of weird. Right here is the other side of her butt. And right here is where her thigh bone comes out. It's where all the hip muscles come down. Yeah, here we go. Okay. There we go. Damn. Yep, that was my hand. Ah, hurt. So when I get to drawing this hand right here, it's kind of a loose sketch. I'm gonna need to get some reference. I'm probably gonna take a picture of my own hand. I've been doing that a lot for a lot of the more difficult stuff, like hands and feet. Just finding a whole bunch of reference for them. Okay. All right, let's not get too carried away. Let's take away the opacity there a little. All right. So I'm actually designing Betty Ross a little differently from Jennifer. I'm making Jennifer more of a bodybuilder type. You know what I mean? And I'm gonna make Red She-Hulk more of a sprinter. So she's gonna be significantly smaller than Jen. But she's still super strong. She makes up for her lack of strength and speed. Jen still got speed, obviously. It's just she hasn't got as much speed as Betty in this case. Let's see. So I'm still doing like light, guidelines to help me figure out, um, you know, relationships between body parts. They don't have to be anything terribly developed. Um, they just gotta work. So, side of her rib cage should come down to meet up with the contours of her thigh. There we go. So, okay. Hey, Declan, congratulations on healthy teeth. Or a healthy tooth in this case. Grigori Burov. I'm not gonna speak too much Russian because my Russian actually kind of low-key sucks, and I don't wanna keep trying to speak a language I'm not very good at. I only know like the basic stuff. But would you mind elaborating on what you mean? Okay, so looks like I'm gonna need to rework something. I might need to alter the proportions a little bit. So let's see. Let me figure that out. It's okay if things aren't exact. We just gotta be mindful that some things might change a little. It's no big deal if it does. It's just we gotta get it somewhat close. There we go. See. So let's go ahead and erase that. So actually, that kind of comes into her crotch area, right? There we go. So let's go ahead and develop that thigh. It's okay if the thigh isn't exact. Let's go ahead and see kind of the overall shape we got here. So, boom, boom. And given as how my kind of like style of female superhero is, they're very leggy. I gotta kind of keep in mind that my eye naturally will build their legs, or at least increase the proportions of the legs kind of by default. So if I want her to be a little skinnier, I'm gonna need to be mindful of how I draw her legs. Kind of skinnier. That's where. All right. So now we got to. You see how much construction comes into drawing. We don't usually get these right on the first go. All right, here we go. So here, let's move up to this. Let's go to her ankle. So it looks like the relationship between the ankle and the thigh bone it's a little lower, but mostly level. So we've already got our thigh bone in there. So let's go ahead and place. Yeah, it looks like her original placement of her ankle was already pretty dang close. Just to make sure that we're on the right track, though. It's kind of where her knuckles meet her fingers. Around a 45-degree angle, give or take. Okay. So right around here is where we should place her ankle bone. Release 9N3. Yeah, I'm actually on their Patreon. I like that. I think Emilio's references are amazing. But I've actually found these ones on Patreon. Not Patreon. I found them on Pinterest. It's hard drawing superhero poses. It really is. It's actually extremely difficult. I have a little bit of trouble actually inventing poses. So I will oftentimes go on the internet and see who's drawn them and who's drawn them well to help me out with that. In the end, these are sketches. They are reference, and they're good. So I thought it would be a good idea to take a look at Emilio's stuff and see what I can't pull from him. All right, so it looks like just in general, my leg work is longer than the reference, but that's okay. Like I said, my characters, particularly the female ones, tend to have stronger legs, longer legs, just taller proportionally. So it's not the end of the world. All right. It's a lot closer. I'd say it's a lot closer to the original reference. Let's go ahead and look at how it started. Not bad, you know, kind of there, sorta, kinda. A lot more dynamitism going on there. We still gotta get her. We still gotta get her foot and other foot. So let's go ahead and do that. So, just where the tip of the foot is, kind of meets up right around here, because I drew that guideline from the knuckles and fingers down to the ankle, and coincidentally, I intersected with the tip of her other foot. So I unintentionally created another guideline. So let's go ahead and put it in there. So I'm gonna bring her heel a little farther from her butt than the reference. We got a gap kind of like that. That's where I'm drawing that H. Let's make that H again, but make it a little wider. So there, feet. Man, I hate drawing feet so much. I'm gonna need reference for that one too. Okay. All right. So let's go ahead and start erasing. I want to get rid of a bunch of the guideline work. Try to isolate the pose a little bit. Let me turn the opacity up. Oh, all right. Ah, shit. There we go. How's the music? All right, still going? Awesome. So, drawing on paper is generally pretty messy work. Digital drawing should be no different. You know, just to make things a little easier, I'm just get it this way. Oops. It's way too big. There. Nope, wrong side. So, just for fun, this is the original. So I actually had a design for Red She-Hulk before. It was okay, but I developed it on the side, and I wasn't really too, how is this? I ended up creating a whole separate character, and so I decided to get rid of that version. So honestly, I'd probably delete this and create a character that was a little closer to her comic book counterpart. What that basically means is I want to use my original design for my own stuff. I'm not going to reveal the design here. Cool. All right. So, we've got a functioning pose here. That's how you kind of, draw these things out at first. You got to start rough, right? I mean really rough. Just find, the overall mold that you're going to be working in, right? And then you kind of build on it. Now that we've done that, we can move forward. Okay. I'm gonna take a quick break, guys. I'm gonna just be 5 minutes. I will be right back. All right. Once I get back, we're gonna work on Jennifer's pose a little bit. Figure out her leg situation. Her upper torso is pretty good. That sort of right leg down there is gonna need to be worked on. But overall, it looks pretty decent. We'll work on that when we get back. Okay. Let's get to it. So I'm gonna let's see. Do I want to keep the original underlayer? Yeah, why not? So let's merge these dudes. I'm gonna get rid of this guy. I don't need it anymore. I have it tucked away in the event that I have to go back to it. So I'm gonna get rid of this. So now we've got our sort of base. And we've got our other base. This one's on thing. Cool. Alright, so we've got 2 characters about the brawl. Let's go ahead and bring this in some. Now, since Betty's a little closer in space, she's going to be somewhat larger than she would otherwise be. But I still want Jennifer to be the one to dominate the frame. So let me see. I think that's okay. Okay, let's kind of take a look at this. So Jen has a bit. I'm gonna kind of have to invent this one, but I have a few pages of reference that are open on the side. Maybe they'll help me ascertain how best to construct this. Yeah, see, I've already found one. So here's her. Let's see. Okay. So since she's got like massive legs, we need to kind of get the muscles really kind of forceful. Okay. So this is kind of where her knee comes up to where it meets the sartorius. Okay. Yeah, that's fine. Just like that. So then we have I have a small reference open on the side here to help me with it. Let's see. So I'm still studying. That's where her. You know what? You guys want to see the reference I'm using? I could pull it up if you want. Maybe I don't need to though, honestly. It's one of Emilio's drawings again. If you would like to see it, I can. You guys want me to pull it up? Because right now I have 2 monitors that are open. And I'm just kind of going off the other monitor. I have Pinterest opened up on that one. Let's see. So let's get her contour together. Right. So I'm just setting up like basic shapes. So that way when I end up drawing in her compression sleeves, they will follow form. There we go. That's looking a bit like a leg, isn't it? Now, I'm going to make a little... This is partly why learning anatomy is so important. I'm looking at Emilio's reference right now. But if I wanted to deviate from it and I didn't know anatomy, I'd be screwed. I wouldn't really know what to do if I didn't have the reference of it. But since I studied anatomy a little bit, I kind of want to increase. I kind of want to increase the size of her leg. So I'm gonna play with this, right? Oh, then beef it up, maintain that knee. This right here is the calf muscles. Comes down here, so I kind of want to have her ankle a little more like this. Right, so here's where we come down to her crotch area, right? That's where the leotard comes down. All right, so now we got to kind of get creative. The since she's kind of a more muscular character, generally for more muscular women, their chests are they need to be dominated somewhat by the pectoralis muscles instead of breast tissue. However, a lot of people when they draw women, they forget that breast tissue is not like an isolated thing. It is attached to muscle. In this case, the pectoralis major, right? Okay. So I need to focus on the pecs as much as the breast tissue. If I don't do that, it's just not gonna look right. How often have you seen it where someone's like drawn this character, for instance, and they didn't like the muscles are just kind of like clay. You know what I mean? It's like her body doesn't have any structure to it. It's just a bunch of like masses put together. Like they would like look at they would like look at imagery like muscles and all that, but they wouldn't really do the homework for why the muscles work in the first place. The clavicles from this angle, they would be, but since her pecs are so big, I'm just gonna use the top of her pecs to sort of act as the clavicle. Good question though. Since this is a muscular character, her clavicles in this case, right? It would come in them, right? So the necktie thing we got going on, which is where all the rib cages are and whatever, right? Right? So the clavicle would kind of come up like this, right? I'm going to get rid of this for now. I don't need this open, right? Attached to the scapula, right? Where is my... Goddamn, I don't have my skeleton guides up. Scapula is kind of like that shoulder blade, right? Yada, 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 right? And that's where the shoulder muscles are, trapezius, neck muscles, all that jazz, right? All right. The clavicle, in this case, right? They even, let me see, let me try to get the shape a little more accurate. I've got my own little model on the side here, right? So that's kind of the rough shape of the clavicle. Meets with the top of the shoulder, right? So since my version of Jen is super buff, right? Oops, let me turn that down a bit. Just a tad, right? You've got a section of the clavicle, right? Where the deltoids and the pectoralis major meet, right? We start getting more into the arm muscles down here with like, the deltoids, the bicep brachii, all that jazz, right? But let's just roll with the pecs for now, right? The pecs sort of emerge right under the deltoid and the bicep. Sorry for the anatomy lesson. I just kind of got a little carried away, but We're on this track, so we're gonna ride it, right? The pectoralis major emerges from atop the bicep and under the deltoid. They meet up kind of about between 3/4 and halfway across the clavicle, right? Since the character is super buff, I'm beefing up her pectoralis major, right? I'm just puffing it up, you know? Now, if I wanted to look a little bit stronger, I would, have more straight edges, right? So you can kind of see how we're, how muscle's a bit like it's like a puzzle. But the clavicle is hidden beneath the pectoralis major and the deltoid. Now, that's just one section of the muscles. You start getting into the, bicep and the deltoids and the traps. You start getting into more, in-depth stuff. But in this case, the clavicle is hidden by the pecs. So I'm going to keep this, put it off to the side. Right. All right, back to it. So this is where the muscles come down, right? Let's see. Let me turn these down. How are we doing on oh, music's off. Let me go ahead and start it back up. Dick Clan starts to panic about my shoe. Hell, you should be afraid. Be very afraid. Nah, man. That's alright. We're all learning. There was a time when I didn't know how to do, any of this. I was kind of trying to, work it out to the best of my ability. You learn it the more you do it. All right, let me pull my reference back. You know what? I'm gonna bring the reference in to show you guys what I'm working from. Give me 1 second. Okay. So here's the reference I was actually pulling up, and I don't think this is Emilio's work, but it's still pretty damn good. All right, so I'm actually gonna get rid of my little anatomy lesson because I need the space over here. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and bring this over. So all of those lessons, or all those things that I was talking about with spatial awareness, utilizing lines for proportional guides, I don't necessarily need to do that here, because the pose over here is not the pose over here. It's similar, but it's not quite it. Okay, so I'm gonna need to utilize my anatomy knowledge to modify it. All right. So first off, I'm gonna just do this so I can see things a little clearer. Right. There we go. That canyon between the developed pecs, I believe you're referring to the sternum. Alright. So, we're gonna utilize the reference here to help with the reference here. Alright? Let's go ahead and do it. So, loosey-goosey. Right. I'm just utilizing what I know to try to make something serviceable. All right. So this is where things get a little rough, and you got to kind of just use your best intuition. From this angle, the deltoids are shooting up. Right? We're seeing the back of her. We're seeing the back of her arm. This is a tricky ass angle. I've always hated drawing arms doing this because of just how tricky it is. But we got to do our best. All right. So let's look at this again. We got her kind of intersection of the obliques with her love handles, her aces, right? So this is where I'm gonna have to deviate from the reference and do my own thing. So this is the aces, right? Oop, let me go ahead and pull this up like this. Aces, 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 and aces, right? Sternum, yes, yes, yes. Sternum. Yeah, that's not just a space. It's actually a bone. All right. So, gonna have to invent. I'm gonna have to be an inventor. Here we go. So here is where things start to get a little nuts. So I wish I had let me see if I got, you know what? No, we got this. Let's do it like this. So this is, I'm seeing the relationships between the different parts of her body here, and I'm gonna adapt them. All right, I know what I was trying to do here. I think if I kind of look at that reference though, I might be able to replicate something similar here. So here's where her is. Oh, that is where this is okay. Okay, so okay. So here is, I might not talk because I'm trying to figure this out. This is a very tricky angle for me, and I just might need to focus a little. It's also like the last drawing of the comic, and it needs to slap. I can't be screwing this one up here. So not looking really right. So I'm gonna stick to kind of what I had going on here. So So I am trying to create a leg pose mostly from my imagination, but utilizing my anatomy knowledge. It's not easy. I still struggle with imagination, but that's part of the reason that we gotta study, you know. Also, quick pro tip. It's something that I even screwed up with. Don't just draw from one angle. You gotta rotate the drawing and just see how things look from another perspective, because, you know, when you're drawing from one perspective, it might look like okay. There might be something about it that you're not quite understanding is wrong. But then you just switch it over and it's like, oh, the entire freaking thing just looks kind of ugly because I didn't draw these contours correctly. So I'm drawing the leg from a more understandable angle, right? And it's starting to make the entire drawing look a little more sensible. See? All right, what's going on in the chat? What are you guys up to? Can drawing AI engines help create simple references? I think it can. I'm pretty sure it can, actually. That's kind of an interesting thing to bring up. About the usage of AI reference. And the ethics of that. I actually tried using ChatGPT to help out with musculature from hard angles before. And it helped. It actually helped a lot. However, one thing I noticed from using it is sometimes it just makes shit up. Like, I wouldn't trust it. Like, don't trust it. By all means, like, you know, you need to still study the damn stuff, because if I didn't study anatomy, I would have never known that some of the shit that it was feeding was just not right. All right, so I would maybe, if you want to use that stuff for reference, have at it, but do so with caution, because it might just straight up fucking lie to you. Okay, so something that I noticed just now is her breast tissue. Let me show you what's going on here and what I noticed. All right, if you raise your arms, you'll notice that your pecs start to ride up, right? Now, since breast tissue is attached to the pecs, they need to ride up too. So let me just show you. Right now I have her breast tissue kind of riding down like this, right? If her arms were kind of like resting, you know, that might look right. However, let's look at what her pectoralis major is doing underneath, right? So this is where her ab muscles come down, right? Okay. Right? So it's coming out like this. This is kind of what her pecs are doing. Not exact, but close enough. All right. Rides down, sort of like a downward facing arrow, right? So that's what her pecs are doing, okay? I may have had her rib cage come out a little too far, so let me go ahead and work that in real quick. Okay. So that's the top section of her rectus abdominis. Alright, whatever. Alright, so this is fine. Her breast tissue. Back to the original point. They wouldn't hang down that low. You can kind of like see what they're doing down there. Let me go ahead and change the color, right? So, and let me save it before I lose anything. Okay. Her breast tissue should not be that far down. It just doesn't work like that. So we need to redraw them, but keep her pecs in mind, right? So here's what we're gonna do. Keep this. Turn this up. It's okay if I'm drawing a different color. That's no big deal. It's good to switch it up. So let's go ahead and get rid of these. Well, not get rid of them. We're not going to get rid of them completely. We're going to keep a little bit of its indications there. Okay. But we're going to redraw them. Okay. Now, we're going to figure... So how breast tissue works, let me kind of redraw that X just roughly. The good thing about drawing muscled characters is the pecs kind of have like a sort of like sunglasses thing going on. Not really sunglasses, but you catch my drift. Alright. Alright, so those are pec muscles. Let's go ahead and just have like brief indicators of like the rectus abdominis, right? From there, we got like the obliques and all that. Okay. So, how breast tissue works is it kind of rides along this. It hangs down like this. So it rides up the pec, and hangs like this. Now obviously, you know, everyone's got different sort of things going on with like genetics and all, right? So some breasts are gonna look different from others, right? But overall, this is kind of what they do, right? They're attached to the pecs, but they hang down from them, right? So, the same needs to happen here, all right? We need to have them kind of raise up and follow the pecs. So, let's go ahead and do this. I'm gonna kind of do like a Spider-Man sort of visor thing. Okay? Gonna have her breast tissue kind of right up. Now, since we're at an angle, another angle, I need to, you know what, let me try again. I should have started with this. You need to keep perspective in mind, because if you just kind of like draw them however, you're gonna screw something up. So I need to kind of remember that we're looking at her lower, and that she's tilted away from us. Let me bring my Spider-Man eyes back. Since she's tilted away from us, there's gonna be a little bit of offset, right? So here is the middle of her sternum, which would mean from this angle, her breast tissue would come out like this, way further out. Okay. Here's her pec muscle again. Here's her breast tissue, right? Same thing for this side, right? It's riding up, so we need to kind of bring it up, like this. Right? Cool. Okay. So a lot of this is going to be hidden underneath of her uniform. So let's make sure we got this right. Cool. All right. That makes more sense than it did before. You see how low they were hanging before, right? They were kind of just hanging, all right? So now I'm gonna readjust her rib cage. Kind of comes over like a wrench, right? There we go. Better. Much better. Sketching's a bitch, isn't it? Ugh. Feet. Let's see. That's going to be her elbow. All right. Going to have a little bit of forearm action. So let's see. This is her her left arm, right? Let's think about this. The deltoid attaches to the elbow around here. So the tendons kind of come up like this, right? And we got a little bit of a football thing going. American football, not soccer. Okay. Boom. Okay. Now this is where the bicep brachii comes in. We've got a little bit of this going on. Now, I'm going to kind of turn down the opacity of the original drawing. Just a smidge. I'm going to turn that down too. Still would like it there, but maybe not totally visible. Cool. All right. So you can kind of see how far we've come from the original sketch. Like there's something there, and now we're getting a little more something there, right? So the good thing about this particular pose is I don't have to do too much in the way of hands. I can kind of get away with doing like the basic stuff, you know. Now the feet are a different story. So let's head down to the feet. All right. So I'll deal with all that later. All right. So far, we've got a pretty decent pose going on here. Feet are the bane of every artist's I know's existence. So, naturally, we need to tackle it head on. We need to make feet our friend. Just don't go to the dark side. You're supposed to master the feet, not join them. Alright. So, we'll take another quick break, and then we will come back and we will tackle the feet. We will figure out the feet. They are the hardest part, in my opinion, of the entire body to draw. I freaking hate drawing feet with a passion, but if you do it right, it can really elevate your stuff. So I'm gonna take a quick break. I'll be right back. All right, we're gonna draw some feet. So, help not distract. Turn this down so we can just focus on the extremity. So let me see if I can't figure out a basic sort of pose here. Okay. So, looking at the leg, could probably make that come down at a sharper angle. The chicken wing thing. Okay. Right. So, I'm gonna have to pull up some I have Pinterest opened up in the other screen, but I have a small collection of foot references that might help. I just gotta search through them, see if I can't find any that assist. I also have a couple of books open near me as well. In fact, let me look on my bookshelf and see if I have one. All right, so I actually have I use Morpho. If you haven't used the Morpho sketching guides, those are pretty useful. But I have one specifically for hands and feet. So I'm gonna see if there's something there that can assist me. If nothing else, it's there to kind of help remind you about basic structure. So let's take a look see. Right now I'm kind of surfing through it. So I know for a fact that I want there to be something like this. Right? I know that's kind of what I want. All right. Just help develop the feet a little bit. I need to kind of take another look at the legs. So here is where the thighs come up to meet the hips, right? It's okay if it's not like exact. Okay. Expanding her side plane, which meets up with the knee around here. Okay. She's a superhuman, so her proportions are going to be a little, exaggerated versus, someone who's not a superhuman, which tends to be all of us. So I'm doing this to try to help out with kind of how I can envision her feet. So I need to try to think of the thighs here as kind of like a sort of backwards trapezius. Right. So little trick I learned is that the legs and the arms, their muscle groups are actually quite similar. The leg is basically just a backwards arm, and the knee is kind of like an elbow, and the calves are kind of like the bicep and the tricep, and the extensors. I'm sorry, the contractors and the extensors. So here's the boom, boom. Right. All connects here at the knee, comes out. No, I am not Russian. I speak a little bit of Russian. And I got some of my closest friends are of Ossetian and Moldovan descent, but they consider themselves Russian because their father and mother both grew up in Russia. So I guess you could say a couple of my best friends are Russian. All right, so now that I got that down, we need to kind of look at the feet again. All right. So the relationship between the feet and the knees tends to go somewhat like this, right? So up here is where the sartorius comes down. Knees are kind of like that, right? So boom, that's where the thigh comes out. It all comes down here, right? Okay. So let's pretend like the ankle's like right here, right? So we've got the oh shoot, what is this goddamn bone called? It is called the motherfucking goddamn the tibula. All right, so the tibula swings over like this and meets up with the ankle bone like this, right? Right? That's how the tibula tends to work. Of course, you have the fibula over here. And I do not have my goddamn bone reference poster out. I really gotta... well, I'm moving offices soon anyway, so I don't need to worry about that. But it kind of comes over like this, right? So then we got the knees right here, right? We got those extensor muscles here, yeah? Same thing over here. The calves kind of come over, right? Shit, hang on. Which one hangs lower? I believe it's the interior. It is the gastrocnemius. That's what this one is. Kind of comes down like this. Yeah, sorry if it's a little slow. It's just sometimes it's a good idea to try to brush up on your musculature and just refresh yourself as you go. So that's the gastrocnemius. This is the God damn, I forget what this muscle is called, but I believe, you know what, let me pull up, that's what I got reference for. So let me go ahead and duplicate this. I got a whole bunch of references saved just for occasions like this. Let's see, where's my anatomical collection? Let's go to my legs. I'm already on the feet, so let's go to the legs. Okay, so front view. Okay, yep. So the gastrocnemius hangs higher. Yes. And that's the fibula. Okay. Kind of comes down. That's where a lot of these branch out from. Okay. That's what our legs tend to look like. Okay? Basic structure. Okay? Now the ankle bones kind of ride down like this. Okay? Which means... Okay. What's going on, Chelavera? Welcome to the stream. Okay. So... that's where the muscles meet up with the joint. That's where the ankle bone comes down. Okay. All right. Let me actually turn that so that way it's side up. Yeah, that's what the leg muscles tend to do. Okay. I'm going to change up the color here, just so I don't get lost. All right, cool. Okay, so back to the feet. Let's try to figure this out. So we want to come down like this. Actually, might want to make that ankle ride up a little more. Let's go ahead and bring it up. Okay. All right. Let's turn this down a smidge. Okay, there's a little bit of something going on. Let's see. I'm working on a foot, sir. It's not going well. Feet are extremely hard. I'll figure it out. Get a basic structure, I could probably figure something out. Okay, if the foot were to work in a like that, I could live with that 100%. Awesome. There we go. Cool. So that's right there. Cool. Now her other foot. Let's get some basic structure going on there. Let's see what I can find. Where are my foot pins? Anatomical reference. Let's go to feet. Where are my feet at? There we go. Oh, let's see. All right, let's go on in the chat. Oh, this will get a lot of Shell Bear stuff going on. Yeah, this is for the comic, dude. Glad you noticed. So, all right, this is gonna be harder. It's the interior. Yeah, so I'm not just drawing a foot, but I'm drawing a foot in perspective. Jesus, why do I do this to myself? All right. Let's just draw a fucking powerful ass fucking leg, and who cares if we do it right, or a foot, I should say. So let's view, flip horizontal. That's not freaking had it tilted. Now it's all tilted the wrong way. So let me do it like this. There we go. Malik, yeah, that's that kind of changed my perspective on drawing legs too. It's really, if you think about them like arms, it gets a little easier. Okay, so let's see. Let's go for the interior of the foot. God damn it. Did I lose my fucking page? Yeah, that's the outside. I need the inside. Let's see. I could try to draw it from imagination, just solely. Soul, no pun intended. I would prefer not to, though. So let me just see. Let me see if I can at least kind of get something. You know what? Where's my other goddamn book? One second. Here it is. I have a book called Dynamic Anatomy by Bern Hogarth. This book is actually super helpful. He really beefs up the musculature, but not like beefing it up for like beefcake's sake. It's more like the dude's just he's putting these things together like blocks and puzzles, and it helps it make a ton of sense. So let's flip this again. Wish it would maintain the angle. Whatever. Oh shit, what the hell did I just do? Okay, good. Okay. So let's tilt this so that way it more matches my reference. Okay. So. Big ass toe, isn't it? It's also just out of proportion. Okay. Let's see. Not perfect, but it's looking like something. Let's see. Let's flip it. Okay. Something still looks off, so let's try to explore a little. This is where the top of the neck is. Hang on, let me try to do it from this angle so I can make sure I got things right. So this is one side plane. It's more like this. Okay, hang on. I might be needing to reevaluate this. Okay, yeah, there's something majorly fucked up here. So let's figure it out. It's not the end of the world, but there's something wrong about the fucking knee. And I already see what it is. Okay? From this angle, the fucking calves would not dominate this at all. They would be hidden. So let's change it. That's why we're sketching right now. Just small things like that that can be worked on. So if we were kind of like trying to work on her details already, we'd be in trouble. So right there we go. So these are gonna come inside here. And once again, we're looking at, I do have a little bit of reference here to help out with that. Right? Now it looks like her foot is not in proportion. There we go. Okay. I'm gonna try to hide this a little bit. Actually, the less that we see of it, the more sense it makes. There we go. Just like that. Because her thighs are like, you know, they're She-Hulk's fucking thighs, man. Okay. So help hide this. Let's see. I'm gonna just envelop these in some shade. Yeah. Alright, cool. Alright, we're getting somewhere. Alright. So, altogether, it's starting to look like a drawing. So, here's what I want to do. Get rid of that. Let's merge these. So I'm gonna lightly erase these dudes, so I at least have a semblance of them. Right. Cool. Right. Yeah. So get rid of these dudes here so that way they don't quite hang too hard out the outside. You could probably get rid of this leg study now. I don't need this no more. Alright. And just to kind of get this, like, worked in, I kind of want to work in a little bit of that side. So, thank you, Chalavera. It's obviously we're just in the sketch phase, but pretty damn important phase. This is also technically, actually not technically, this is the last drawing of the entire comic. So, you know, I'm putting a little bit of effort into the illustrations. I really need this drawing in particular to slap. You know what I mean? I want her muscles to be like ripped. I want her posture to work. I want people to look at her, you know, and just be like, damn, you know. Now, let's go ahead and well, let's not get rid of this, but let's merge these. Okay? So, I'm just trying to unify the colors, that's all. So, since Jennifer is the main character, I'm going to want to work on her drawing first. This is obviously Red She-Hulk. It's just her, you know, it's just the guys that I sketched out for her. If you missed all that section, I spent about a good 45 minutes, maybe 50, getting this together from reference. I already deleted the reference, but you can easily go back and see it. But, I already had this drawing kind of like together with an original sketch. This is the reference I was using to help out. However, this is her original sketch that I, you know, kind of lightly penciled in a while back. And this is kind of how we're developing her. So, let's keep this trend going, eh? So at this point, I have a solid base to work with. So I'm still going to be rough, but I'm going to be trying to actually get a drawing together that I can create line work for. All right. What's going on in the chat? So Chilavera, not everybody in the military is built. That's not a thing. A lot of people are built. A lot of the machine gunners I knew were ripped to shreds. But a lot of us chose to instead have more lean bodies. The logic being... Actually, one sec, guys. Alright, sorry about that. Just something that came up on my phone. All good, though. Okay, logic being, at least in the infantry, at least this is how I saw it, if I got shot, I wouldn't want to be ripped. A couple of reasons for that. One, I'm a bigger target. And two, if I need to get pulled out by my friends, they gotta carry a lot of muscle mass. So, a lot of us choose to be more lean because we're smaller targets and we're easier to carry. So, in my case with Betty, I'm choosing to make her more lean. When I was in the Marine Corps, I don't think I ever went above 175 the entire time I was in. All right, so let's go ahead and start building this drawing, eh? So we got a lot of torso mass here, and we're gonna make her costume kind of ride it, you know. So here's where her strap is gonna be for her phone / tablet, right? A lot of perspective action going on here. Yeah, not everybody in the military is jacked. That's not to say that people in the military aren't jacked, but a lot of us choose not to be jacked. It's just it's somewhat senseless. But you know, it's still part of our culture. You still gotta be fit. You still gotta be able to run. Military fucking loves running for some fucking reason. They prefer cardio over sheer strength, which frankly makes sense if you think about it. All right. Um, Chilavera. Yeah, like the Hollywood likes to portray the military in a different, a light that isn't necessarily a lie, but they definitely take some, they definitely take some liberties. I think probably the most accurate movie about the military that I saw, I probably have to say, I probably have to say Jarhead is probably the most accurate movie about the Marine Corps. Now, in terms of just the overall military, the most realistic portrayal is Generation Kill. That was probably the single best portrayal of the Marine Corps and just the military. That's very much how we talked. Grigori Burov. Yeah, I served in the Marine Corps. I was in the I was in 1-3 Charlie, 1st Battalion, 3rd Marines Charlie Company. I was in from 2016 through 2020. Okay, so I'm not gonna keep all these lines in when I'm doing the muscles. I'm just trying to get it all together so I can see where they intersect and then adjust the line weight to help suggest the muscles. I don't need to show them all. Just need to suggest them. Unsaken, yeah, Gen Kill is amazing. Warfare? No, I haven't watched that one yet. I kind of got off of war movies recently. Something about them kind of rubs me the wrong way lately. I feel like American war movies exist for the wrong reasons, and my opinions of war movies has evolved over time to the point that I think they're very exploitative, and so I haven't watched that many recently. But I have heard Warfare's good. That one's about Ramadi, right? The Battle of Ramadi. And yes, I can read a little bit of Russian. My Russian isn't exemplary, but um, you know, in a pinch, I might be able to get away with a few phrases here and there. I can read a lot of Russian. Um, However, whether I can understand it is a different story. Oh, Grigori, I believe you asked a question earlier if I like learned like they taught me how to read Russian Cyrillic. I actually taught myself how to read Cyrillic. I did take a Russian class to help expand my knowledge of the language, and I still know a little. That's actually where I met my wife. But I taught myself how to read Cyrillic. A lot of the stories that I want to actually create into animations and all that um, are actually they actually were inspired by how do I say this? I want to make a lot of them centered in Russia, because to me, like the Russians, culturally, obviously, there's a distinction between Americans and Russians. There is a whole world of difference, values and all that stuff. But in terms of geopolitics, at least from what I've observed, I think I think the two are quite similar in terms of how they operate. In terms of targets we've engaged, in terms of countries we've attacked, invaded. Um, America and Russia are not all that different. So when I look at like conflicts like what happened in Chechnya or Dagestan or Tajikistan or even Georgia, like everyone likes to act like they're like the Russians are some sort of big bad evil for doing this, but like, dude, come on. America's been doing stuff like that forever. Like far far longer, and I would dare to say better than the Russians. I'm not saying we're better for it. I'm just saying we've been doing it so much we're kind of professionals at fucking being bullies. Oh yeah, Sebastopol. That was before it was annexed. It was kind of weird. So back when the Ukrainians had control of Crimea, Russians had a little outpost there in Sebastopol. Not anymore, obviously, but um, why Russian? Well, like I said, one of my best friends is Russian, and obviously I care about him very much. I know his family and all that. Um, I'm not sure. I really don't know the answer. I used to. It's hard for me to explain why I like Russia. I think it's something to do with their, the culture, their sheer size of the country, how they behave. Um, I don't know, man. I've always just found them fascinating. Chilavera. I haven't watched Warfare. I'll need to take a look at it and see. Um, you know, see how good it is. I'm sure it's a damn good movie overall, like good production value. But I you gotta keep in mind that all of these fucking movies are trying to sell you some bullshit. The whole war in Iraq was just a, it was a fucking crime. And I think movies making money off of that shit, um, it's kind of disgusting. If you're gonna be making movies or anything like that, they need to be fucking like, in my opinion, non-profit, and every dollar donated to funds that help civilians who were impacted. What crayons taste most delicious? That's a trick question. All right, hang on. Motherfucking muscles here aren't lining up completely. Give me 1 second. So boom. So let me fix it. So that's where this would be up. These are the serratus muscles, where the serratus muscles meet the lats. Okay. So all of this is where tastiest crayon. See, you can't just label one crayon as the tastiest. It's when you combine them. It's like cooking. You got to find a good combination. I personally enjoy like the spiciness of red with like, the cool sort of sweetness of blue. You mix them together and you get yourself a nice tangy purple. All right, you can kind of see how the drawing is beginning to sort of come together, right? Part of the benefits of constructing the anatomy through muscle is you kind of get a sense of the volume, you know. Now, this is all going to be hidden, so it's going to need to be in shade. There we go. Cool. If there's one movie that I think one should watch about war, um, it's called Idi Smotri in Russian, or actually, I believe it's Belarusian, but it means "come and see" in English. That shit will fuck you up. I watched "Come and See." It's free on YouTube. Um, but it's about a partisan kid during the Nazi push into the Soviet Union, and it's about a 14-year-old Belarusian partisan. Partisan meaning the what's the word I'm looking for? The guerrilla fighters. It's about his experience in dealing with the Nazis, and it's fucking bad. Just take my word for it. That shit is bad. It was one of the worst fucking things I've ever fucking watched. It is. I don't even know if sad is the way to describe it. It's just straight horrifying. Honestly, I think it. I don't even know if calling it a war film is fair because when you think of war film, you think of like combat shit. There's hardly any combat in the movie. Um, I mean, hardly any combat. I don't think I recall like like one scene where there was shooting. Like I mean, like not like how do I say this? There was a lot of scenes with shooting, but there was one where it was sort of like maybe a combat scenario a little bit. The rest of the shooting that was in the movie was generally murder. Just go watch the movie. There's nothing that I can say about it that would do it justice. If you watch it, well, watch it at your own risk. It's fucking bad. Okay. Looking at this, I might need to take a look at these arms. Fuck. Let me pull up some arm references. I'm probably gonna need it here. There we go. So drawing the arm, the interior of the arm from odd angles, it's not fun. So I gotta get as much reference as I can to try to help me construct this properly. So right now, I mean, I guess it could work if I roll with it. Here, let's try to examine this thing. So this is foreshortened, so it's that length. So this one looks longer. So we're gonna actually take the contours a little straighter. Okay. So the arm is up like that. Yeah. So we want the arm to come over like this. Yeah. There we go. So one of the keys to drawing arms correctly is just try to get the structure right, and don't focus too much on the muscles just yet. So when I do this, okay, this is where the elbow would be, right? Which means I shouldn't have said elbow. I meant the joint. So that's where the joint would be. So as a result, this is where the elbow would go, which means we got a little bit of bend going on. Okay. So it's almost a straight on view, right? There we go. Now we're starting to get somewhere, right? It's not perfect, but doesn't need to be. So actually, there's something I gotta change. So I'm trying to identify a nicer flow for the arms. So let me go ahead right now. Right. And let's see how it would look from this side. There we go. So as you can probably ascertain, drawing is a lot of it's a lot of push and pull. You gotta kind of play around and figure out what's working. It's a lot like sculpture. All right, so let's see. Maybe this will help. So I'm gonna. I know you probably wouldn't be able to see it from this angle, but I'm gonna use that shoulder muscle there anyway. I don't know. What do you guys think of the What do you guys think of the muscle structure overall? Like, fucking, do you get a sense of volume looking at her? So, trying to figure out the locations of the hands. So then I could do this. Right? This is the sign in question, right? I'm gonna have it more accurately meet up with their hand placements. So now as I look at it, you get a sense that she's holding it. Okay. Oh shit, that's the pencil tool. Not using that. Okay, so, god damn it. The thing about like most arm references is no one. It's very fucking hard to find arm reference that looks at the interior. Like you need to detach it straight up from the torso and draw the interior. It's rare to find someone who does that. I don't understand why. Like that's one of the hardest angles to draw. We need more stuff showing that. All right, so arms. Okay. So let's. Here's what I'm gonna do to help myself out. I'm gonna detach this from the rest of her, and I'm gonna focus on it alone. Right. So this is her left arm. Right. And we're just gonna look at it on its own. And I'm even gonna change the color so that way I can. There we go. Just do my own thing with it. Okay. So, looking at it as a singular entity and already having a torso built in, let's figure this out. All right. At the core, okay. Let me turn this down a little more even. Okay. At the core of all of these body parts, there's structure. So let's find it. The pectoralis major comes up like this, which would mean it overlaps the bicep, which would mean that this is the tri, right? This is the tricep. This is where the bicep and the tricep come together. So the bicep tends to meet at a tendon kind of low, like that. And then the bicep would come up like this. All right. Okay. So we have a little bit of what the fuck is that muscle called? It's a deeper muscle. But this guy. Right. I still struggle with drawing the arm at odd angles. It's a challenging thing. Okay, so the pecs and the bicep meet up, right? Now the bicep would come more at a straighter angle like this. Okay. Boom. Okay. So that muscle attaches to the bone from the torso. So it's going to kind of come up like this, all right? Grigori, I gotta disagree with you. Um, our militaries operate fairly similarly, not in terms of like tactics and shit, but in terms of how we exert ourselves. Um, right now, America has the upper hand because of just how much fucking money we got and how fucking much NATO listens to us. Um, and I have my opinions about what's going on with Ukraine and America's role in that, but I don't think they're that different. And I think that's more of a statement as to America versus Russia. We like to act like we're some sort of harbingers of peace, but I would very much wager the opposite. I think I think the Russian government would like peace as much as the American government would. I don't think that's much. A lot of money to be made in war. Now I'm not saying this to be a jerk. Like I'm saying that we're a little more alike in a lot of in ways that I wish we could admit. Okay. So here is where the tendons. So that's the bone, right? That would be the humerus. You see how much effort it can take to draw these things? Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to lightly erase this. I do actually, I use Dad's Studio Chilavera to recreate these poses. It's helped. Okay. Well, that's kind of the point of the movie. Like they try to make it seem like it's gonna be something that it just doesn't turn out to be. Like they make it try to seem like it's gonna be an action movie, but then the action never happens. That's kind of the point. These guys are getting all pumped up to go and, fight, and they get to go to war, but they don't get to fire a shot. They never get to do what they were trained to do. All right, at least the arm now looks like something. Compared to like Russian war movies, yeah, I would say Jarhead's a little more like a an action movie. One of my favorite movies from the Soviet times was Afghansky Asylum. I've always admired how the Soviets would handle their war movies. They're a lot less gratuitous. So let's merge these dudes. Yeah, I'm sorry it's taken so long to draw a couple of drawings, but like I said, these are like the end drawings. They've got to look good. So I can't fuck around with these. Okay. So the shading here is going to be tricky. I'm going to need to upload this to Dad's Studio and figure out how to do the shading here. Just let me try to look at it actually. See if I can't. I'm pretty sure all of this is gonna be. Let's see. I try to find the contours. So boom, boom. Yeah, it's all coming down here. Let me try something. I watched Ninth Company. It was very American, I should say. Don't worry, I understood. I understood it to be what it. I understood Ninth Company to be what it was. It wasn't terrible, but I sure as hell wouldn't call it accurate either. Good production value. Yeah, as I was looking at it, the placement of her arm was looking a little off, but luckily I was able to just push it over a little bit. So, so I've actually got to change the position of the sign again. That's all right. So bring this down. That actually that was pretty damn close. There we go. It's looking pretty good, honestly. Yeah, I've heard of Sisu. My teacher told me to watch it. I gotta give that a watch sometime. All right, moving on to legs. Mhm. Okay, so we're starting to look into some knee action. So let's see. I'm gonna be having her compression sleeve kind of right up that. Yeah. Which means all of that. Knees are fucking tricky, man. But let's see. What's going on, Chilavera? Holy shit, what? Might save the feet for another day, if I'm being honest, because I've been drawing for a little while. I'm starting to get a little bit tired, and I feel like if I have okay foot structure there. If I come at it fresh, um, then it'll come together okay. Okay, so let's see. Let me just keep at it here. Ugh, shit. Drawing's a pain in the ass. But you start figuring it out, and it starts to kind of materialize. Makes it all worth it. Yeah. It's part of the magic of all this is you gotta legitimately take the time to just learn. You gotta learn anatomy. You gotta learn um if you can't be a good draftsman, like if you can't I want to be a decent animator. I want to be seen as a decent animator, right? But part of the game is you got to be a fucking decent draftsman too. You can't just animate. You gotta fucking be able to create form. You gotta be able to draw, dude. And I'll tell you, at school, when I was at school, the amount of fucking people who were in the program that I was in who didn't know how to draw, like who weren't decent draftsmen, was staggering. Honestly a little, it was honestly a little low key upsetting. Like now, when I first went to school, my draftsmanship skills, when I went in, were fairly lacking compared to what they ended up becoming. I learned how to draw in one illustration class at that school. Like one course changed the entire trajectory of my drawing. So I will never say that school didn't give me anything. That would be a complete lie. I learned some really good stuff at school. But if you can't fucking draw, like if you can't just like sit down and just draw like a straight up picture, like there's no fucking point, man. Like you gotta know how to fucking draw, dude. Draftsmanship is a major part of animation. And yeah, if you can't fucking draw, then you're fucking pretty useless. We're getting there. Like, this is actually starting to look pretty damn good. Like, I actually really like this. And this is all just from reference, man. Here, let me go ahead and plug this in. Now, I'm not gonna draw it perfectly straight. I'm gonna give it a slight bend. So I wanna show her starting to swing the damn thing. Right? Like, the object that she is holding is a metal fucking pole. Right? But this is a Hulk we're talking about. She has the capability of making otherwise sturdy materials look somewhat flimsy. So, let's try to figure out really quick the dimension of the pole. Yeah. So, it's kind of like that. Yeah. So, there's more to animation than being smooth and fluid, but I appreciate that. Unfortunately, like um, whenever I hear that compliment, I don't know. It doesn't mean a whole lot to me. Like, that's not true. It means a lot. I appreciate that you like my animation, but it's unfortunately one of the lower tier compliments when it comes to animation, and that's partly why I've resolved to not put so much effort into frame rate going forward. It's because that doesn't matter how smooth it is. You can put in as many frames as you want, but like the smoothness isn't the key. The key is how interesting it is. It needs to be an interesting cartoon. Like, the character needs to have personality. Smoothness comes with it, and I'm trying to make it where being smooth is part of what makes my stuff work. But it can't be like the main thing. Ugh, all right, let's see. Either way, Chilavera, I appreciate it. Wait, Grigori, they make you practice draftsmanship as obligatorily? I'm gonna slide this up. There we go. Yeah, her muscles there were looking a little overextended. That looks a lot better. Skull, what's going on, man? Shit, I wonder if I can figure this foot out. And you know what? I actually slid this leg underneath this other one, and you know what? I think I can get away with keeping it there as long as I develop the other one. I cannot hide both feet. Ah, the draft. I got you. You're a good draftsman. Fuck me. Flew right over my head. Sorry, man. That was a good joke. I was just too dumb to. I was just too dumb to hear it. Let me get my. I'm gonna finish the drawing of the head and the foot before I wrap up today, and then I can tackle. Betty on her own in her own session. It's just, these have to be very good drawings before I These have to be very good drawings. There's the note that I'm leaving you on. So if you walk away and you're like, damn, those are awesome, then, folks want to see more. All right. I think we're on a good track, though. Most definitely. But let me do one thing. There. All right. I got my I've got my physical head model out right now. I'm gonna try to construct her head. All right. I like how her torso looks overall. All right. So right now I've got my head. I've got my head sculpture. I'm gonna go to a lower pencil thickness, and let's try to figure this out. What the hell am I doing? Why don't I just take a picture of the damn thing? So instead of holding it up in my face, what I could do instead is just take a picture of the damn thing and pull it up on my iCloud and draw it that way. All right, hang on. Perfect. Good tip, by the way, is have a camera nearby. If you ever need reference, you've always got yourself. I can't tell you how many times I've utilized my own body as reference for like hands and stuff. All right, one sec. All right, here we go. So this is actually the image I just took of my own personal head sculpture. I marked off the planes with Sharpie a while back. So let's actually flip the view. Okay. So same principle as drawing the body. We do the same thing with the head. Quick little fun fact. While I had my mic turned off, my wife actually came in, brought me some coffee, and she then just stood there, and I was like, wait a second, turn your head. When after she it's like, hey, I can make that face. And so I actually sat there and I drew out her face. So my wife actually helped me with the face reference here. Thought it was kind of funny. So I used her face as a reference, and then I have my own mirror next to me to make expressions. And that helps. No, my wife has not voiced in any of my cartoons. Which is unfortunate because she's actually a terrific singer. She just gets a little self-conscious. I'm actually not joking. Like, she's very talented. I wish my shower singing voice was as good as her regular singing voice. Okay. Not a bad face. I like it. Now we start getting some hair in there. Start to fix her silhouette a little bit. Now, the thing is, from this angle, I'm not going to be able to see a whole lot. I do not like it. Now, gotta. That's okay. I kind of want to include her hair, but it's kind of hard from this thing. So, let's see. She's falling, right? It's gonna be kind of hidden. The fuck? Guys, I'm gonna need to dip here in a minute, but let me try to do just a little bit of the foot before I end